And about us joining in with America and also being protected, as he would see it.
The Foreign Secretary, Jack Straw, put the odds of a war with Iraq at around 60-40 against. But he said the situation was changing daily. Mr. Straw also tried to link the regime in Baghdad with Al-Qaeda by saying they were part of the same threat faced by Britain. Workers resumed today on a mobile phone mast in West Yorkshire village of Bardsey, despite residents' campaign against it. Leeds City Council served an enforcement notice on T-Mobile just before Christmas, ordering them to leave the site. But the notice doesn't come into effect until later this month, and T-Mobile are continuing to erect the mast in the meantime. T-Mobile says the work is needed to improve coverage in the area. A game dating back to the 13th century is being staged in North Lincolnshire today. The Haxby Hood is traditionally played between the people of Haxby and Westwoodside, with villagers competing to bring back the hood to their village. Some residents compare the game to a rugby scrum. Eileen Pearson, who's now 70, has watched the hood every year of her life.
I still enjoy it very much because I've been involved with it right as long as ever I can remember. My first recollection of the hood was before I started school, when my dad was a boggin, and the boggins came to call for him, and I was frightened because they got the soot from our chimney back and put it on the foal's face.
Now let's find out what's happening on our region's roads tonight. We cross to the travel centre. All the details come from Claire Vandenbroek.
Thanks, Steve. Well, a burst water main still causing some problems through Harrogate on Otley Road at the junction of Park Avenue. Panelash Road in the Panelash area of Harrogate, that remains closed between Otley Road and Green Lane due to subsidence. And heading out of Leeds on the A64, just opposite the Seacroft Hospital, the outbound carriageway only has one lane open due to ongoing roadworks. Now, moving on to the trains, all Anglo-Scottish services are still being disrupted due to engineering works further north near to Edinburgh. The best advice is to check before you travel with the National Rail Inquiries Bureau. In the meantime, if you do spot any further problems on the roads, keep us updated on the travel line. That's 0800 854 833.
Thanks, Claire. And don't forget, there's more fascinating stories from across our region tonight on BBC One at 7:30 with a new series of Inside Out. Tonight's weather now, clear spells and scattered snow flurries, low temperatures of -3. And that's BBC Yorkshire and Lincolnshire News at 7:05.
This is BBC North. A very good evening now from me, Frank Wappat. 3 hours of our kind of music. And we'll not bother with a signature tune tonight. I can't find it, so we can't. But to say that our star for the week this week is Al Bowley. It would have been Al Bowley's birthday today. Now then, according to his death certificate, he was 43 when he died in 1941. By simple deduction, of course, that means he was born in 1898. But Lew Stone's wife, Joyce Stone, reckoned he was 10 years older than he said he was. But then, you know, she probably had some reason to be catty about it. I see no reason to doubt Al's own word. So we'll say he was born in 1898. So that means he would have been 105 if he lived. But of course he didn't. Sadly, Al was killed during a blitz on Thursday, the 17th of April in 1941. Now, I was listening to the first broadcast I ever did of his life story. That was in 1966, whilst I was working in London. I worked also for Radio 390 in the Thames Estuary, and that was my first broadcast there, Al Bowley's life story. Now, listening to that broadcast at the weekend, I was appalled at the quality of the records, and also delighted to say that the technology that's available today, well, I've certainly got that and made some inventions myself. I only wish the people who sell CDs of Al Bowley would take such care with them. Many CDs that I've seen have got a lot of surface noise, clicks and ticks, and sound ghastly. I did help a record company, Past Perfect, to put together a tribute to Al Bowley because I've got many recordings of his taken from the original masters. EMI in this country, for whom he recorded most, destroyed all the masters. But in America, there were several masters still around at RCA Victor of the English recordings. I paid $75 per song and got as many as I could. Now, that meant that the transferring of them to a digital format was quite easy. But Al Bowley made over 1,100 records, and I've been using the very latest technology this weekend on restoring those records. Here he is with a lovely song called They Say.
They say you have no lips for a fool such as I. They say you just believe in hello and goodbye. And they say that the one I admire isn't even remotely concerned, and that I'll go on playing with fire until I have learned my heart has been burned. They say I shouldn't dream of your face in the moon. They say all of my dreams will be nightmares too soon. Let them talk, let them think what they want to, if it makes them feel happy that way. I know I'll always love you no matter what they say.
Al Bowley and They Say. He was accompanied there by Geraldo and his orchestra. And I think you'll agree the quality is absolutely superb. And looking at the desk here as I'm playing that track, perfect stereo image as well on there. And I personally don't know how anyone can listen to a radio in mono, not when stereo is available. And I was chatting to Brian, who pops in from time to time when he's not touring the planet or the constellation and plays the piano, and he's just bought a digital radio. And now I don't know how he can afford that, but he did, and he said, Frank, you've not heard anything till you've heard digital radio. He says, listening on a Monday night, I am astounded at the sound quality. Well, I've got to admit, even I haven't got a digital radio, but where I live, you're lucky if you can pick up anything other than static on your radio set. But nevertheless, it's my duty, and I've always felt that way, that when I'm broadcasting records that go back a long time to 1938, in that case, then it's got to be the best sound we can get. The BBC offers the best radio sound in the world, and we match it now in the transfers. Here's Al Bowley, and we're paying a tribute to the great man. He was really the first crooner in this country of international status. Before that, the Columbia Record Company would put on their dance records with incidental singing. And often that was with more truth than they realised. The art form of crooning may well have been invented by Bing Crosby in America, but Al Bowley was recording before Bing Crosby. Al Bowley's recording history goes back to pre-electric days, so no real evidence has been found yet. One record on which he plays a banjo or a guitar, it's hard to tell. But we're concerned tonight with Al Bowley, the star who has found more fame since he was killed in the London Blitz. And whenever they're needing a point material, point music on television and radio, invariably it's the voice of Al Bowley that you hear. Here he is now to sing You're as Pretty as a Picture. Again, listen to the quality.
A picture. Has anyone ever told you before? You're the image of an angel from above, and you were just meant for me to adore. You're the model of perfection. The others are only copies of you. Can't you see the only thing that worries me? I wonder if you're too good to be true. Your eyes, your hair, you're a perfect color scheme. You're much too fair. You must have stepped out of a dream. You're as pretty as a picture, a beautiful exhibition of art. When I say you fairly take my breath away, just picture what you have done to my heart.
Again, with Geraldo and his orchestra, Harry Hayes plays the lead in the saxophone section. Lead alto, you'll hear the odd solo coming in. Now, Al was born in Lorenzo Marques, British, Portuguese, East Africa. Somewhere around there, they keep changing the names of the countries. His father was Greek and his mother Lebanese. And they lived in Australia at first. They'd gone across there. And when Al Bowley came along, he was one of quite a large family. And like Perry Como is alleged to have done, he was singing to the customers in a barber's shop. And it was his ambition to play in a dance band. He was quite a good banjo player and quite a good guitarist, though modesty forbade him to brag about that. He certainly enjoyed the banjo, and a banjo was very useful in a dance band of the early to mid-1920s. His singing was, like Columbia stated, incidental singing. He enjoyed playing. He was a great character, and he toured playing in South Africa, and then he toured that part of the world, meeting such legendary names, well, later legendary names as Len Phyllis and Monialita, And eventually Al began a recording career in Germany. It started in Berlin, and he sang mainly always in English, and he had a sort of American accent then. And he sent some copies of his early gramophone records to Manuelita and also to Len Phillis. And Len Phillis had landed a plum job in the West End of London at the Savoy with Fred Elizalde in his music. Fred was a bit advanced for the well-heeled clientele that frequented the Savoy with a rather foppish style of dancing. When they got a real jazz band, they just got excited and pretended to be hip or with it. Never mind, it was Len Phillis who let Fred Elizalde hear some of the records of Al Bowley. And Len Phillis said, right, this is the man we want for London here at the Savoy. He sent the fare over to Al to get him to come over as quickly as possible. Al decided to celebrate landing a job in the Savoy Hotel in London. Yep, you guessed it. He had all his so-called friends. He had plenty. I know that feeling well. Friends that take rather than give. And in no time at all, he had spent the fare over to London in entertaining his so-called friends. Well, you could say serves him right, but it just shows he had a nice nature, bless him. And he also had a few nice friends there who rallied round and provided the fare. Soon as he got to London from his first wage packet, he repaid that debt. He hated being in debt. But he went down very, very well indeed. His dream had come true. Now here he is to sing, I'm Deep in a Dream.
And I sink in my chair. The smoke from my cigarette climbs through the air. The walls of my room fade away in the blue, and I'm deep in a dream of you. The smoke makes the stairway for you to descend. You come to my arms, may this bliss never end. For we love anew just as we used to do, when I'm deep in a dream of you. Then from the ceiling, sweet music comes stealing. We glide through a lover's refrain. You're so appealing that I'm soon revealing my love for you over again. My cigarette burns me, I wake with a start. My hand isn't hurt, but there's pain in my heart. Awake or asleep, every memory I'll keep when I'm deep in a dream of you.
When I first heard that record, which I got in a junk shop, I thought, what a beautiful song, and I endeavoured to find the music. I couldn't find it, was out of print, of course, but scored it, and the first thing I did when I made my first LP, I recorded that, and recorded it again and again. I've just always loved the song, Deep in a Dream of You. Now, this next song, most people who have been around a while will remember this one. It's one of those timeless hits. It'll always be a hit. It's called One Day When We Were Young.
One wonderful morning in May, you told me you loved me when we were young. One day, sweet songs of spring were sung, and music was never so gay. You told me you loved me when we were young. One day you told me you loved me and held me close to your heart. We laughed then, we cried then came the time to part. When songs of spring are sung, remember that morning in May. Remember you loved me when we were young. One day. It was a long time ago when I first came across the voice of Al Bowley, anonymous, on recordings of Roy Fox and Lew Stone. It was a young chap called Ray Brown, later to become famous as a jazz musician, who explained to me who the anonymous vocalist was. And I thought, this man has got real talent, because some of the fellas that you had recording in the 30s sounded like girls, and some of the girls sounded like fellas. Al was the first guy to come along that had a quality in his voice. It was smooth. He could go from a chest to a head voice effortlessly. And I thought it would be lovely to form a society. Round about that time, my mum died, and that's a long time ago, 39 years, and I was gutted. I just couldn't understand how, as a comparatively young woman, she should have passed on like that.
And I remember being recommended by a Jewish friend that I had to go and see this lady. She was actually one of the greatest mediums ever. And I went to see her. She described my going over to the house within an hour of finding out that my mum had passed on. And she described the scene. She described everything I did. It gave me a lot of reassurance at a time when I needed it. And that meant a lot to me. But then she said, I see a singer standing beside you now, dark wavy hair, about 2 inches smaller than you are. And he's got his hand on your shoulder. He's smiling. Do you know who I mean? And I didn't. I'd never seen a photograph of Al Bowley till the following week. But what she said was, you're going to do a lot for this man. He's a singer, and he's going to do a lot for you. You're going to do a lot for him. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And I thought, well, that's nice, but I don't know any famous singers or anything like that at all. Then this chap said, Frank, I've got a picture of your idol. I'm going to give it to you. And I said, my idol? She said, yes, Al Bowley, man. Oh, I said, I've never seen Al. Let me have a look at it quick. And as he handed the photograph over, he then said the description that lady had given. And that was amazing. Now then, I went down to London to work after that. And that was the turning point in my life from a career point of view, because I interviewed as many 30s and 20s stars as were still living. And then I was given a chance to broadcast on Radio 390, and they said to me, have you heard of Al Bowley? I said, oh, heavens, yes, I think he's lovely. Right, we wanted to do his life story. So I worked on that and did his life story. And just about 4 years ago, I was down in London at a musical convention, and they were still selling that broadcast. I had to pay £8 to get a copy of my own work back. When I heard it, I would have bought the lot and destroyed them. It was awful. It lacked it was too formal. Done from a script, and I've never used a script since. But never mind. That was the story of Al Bowley. I founded the Al Bowley Circle, and Golden Years magazine was the official one, and then Memory Lane became the official magazine, reaching, I don't know how many countries in the world, but with hundreds of members all over the place. It was absolutely gratifying to see. And I paid to have a plaque about 5 feet long on satin anodized chrome in memory of Al Bowley, and that was installed in a church in North Tyneside, which is now closed, and I've managed to retrieve that in memoriam board. It's rather funny because just before this closed, there was a German visitor came over, asked to see me, and I was fortunate enough to have a chat with him. He was a great admirer of Al Bowley. It's ironical, isn't it, that he was killed during the Blitz, but then that was war. And he was a great admirer. I was able to show him the plaque, which I've now got. It's in the garage, actually. I'm just looking for some way to put it. I just felt that as there was nothing on the tomb, Al Bowley's body is buried in a communal grave with about 220 other remains in there. And I just felt Al was special. He brought happiness to millions, still does, and has probably got more fans now than he used to have. Anyhow, here he is with On the Sentimental Side. And on this one, is it true to say he excels on every record, but more so on this one.
I'm near you, even though I've been denied. I'm inclined to be a little on the sentimental side. I suppose I should forget you if I had an ounce of pride, but I guess I can't help being on the sentimental side. I should act gay, laugh it off and say fare thee well, say it just didn't wear well, but I'm not that way. I time in hopes you'll think it over and perhaps be satisfied with a simple sort of person on the sentimental side.
On the Sentimental Side, sung by Al Bowley. If you listen to his early records, you'll find that he sounds like they're far too high, the keys in which he's singing, and that's quite true. Al Bowley was asked by Ray Noble, do you sing copy key? And for some odd reason, best known to himself, he said yes. He doesn't sing copy key at all. If a number was in the key of C, he should be singing it in B flat. He was a baritone rather than a soprano. How Ray Noble didn't spot that, I'll never know. But then Ray Noble was more interested in his arrangements than in what was being played or sung. And I mean that. Also, Roy Fox, when he left Fred Elizalde, his career ended at the Savoy. The people just weren't ready for good, sophisticated music and first-class musicianship. Many of the members of the band were American. After that, Al was reduced to busking and singing anywhere, in fact. Heard by Bill Harty, the drummer, with Roy Fox. He took him along to Roy. Roy engaged him immediately. He thought he had a wonderful voice. But again, Roy Fox got Al to sing in copy key. It was only when Lew Stone took the band over that Lew noticed this. And Lew told me himself, he said, you know, they could have ruined his voice. He says, but I noticed that he was a baritone. And so I had everything arranged for Al in the right key. He says, Ray Noble, some of the things there, some of the recordings he made with Ray Noble were absolutely appalling. Now, I became good friends when I worked in London with Lew Stone. Lew Stone came up north and opened a branch of our club in Newcastle, and he opened one in London as well. And I always regarded Lew as a very good friend, a loyal friend, and a gentleman. Here's Al now, with Lew Stone, the man who knew which key to put the songs in.
On the highway, on the plain. Turn your light on my way through memory lane. Moonlight on the highway, guide me while I roam. Shine upon each byway that leads me to home. A place where roses remember and folks forget me not. What else is worth dreaming of? From your silver skyway, smiling up above, moonlight on the highway, please lead me to love.
And the reed section there in Lew Stone's band, led by Joe Crossman, first alto. Lovely song, that. Moonlight on the Highway was made into a television film. Enough said about that, because I've told that story before. But never mind, this shows Al with a man who cared not just about his arrangements, but cared about every musician and every vocalist. Lew Stone. Looking at photographs of Al Bowley, invariably there's a cigarette in his hand, and I'm told by Billy Amstell, who will be chatting to us a little bit later in the programme tonight, the only survivor from Ambrose's great 1930s dance orchestra. Billy Amstell, in his 90s, will be chatting to me after the 8 o'clock news. Now, he says that Al never smoked and never drank. Al certainly did smoke, but I don't think he smoked a lot. And I can't imagine him just posing with a lit cigarette on the majority of photographs that he had taken. He wasn't a man for overindulging, and as Billy Amstell will tell us tonight, he was a great keep fit man, because there's legends built up around Al Bowley, especially where women are concerned. Now, you cannot be completely fit if women dominate your life. You far rather run round the block or something like that. But anyhow, we'll see what Billy Amstell says later. Here's our Al again with "Have You Ever Been in Heaven?" Well, he found his heaven keeping fit. This would have been Al Bowley's birthday today, and we're doing him proud with the very latest technology. And I don't think we can ever get past that. It's far clearer than the records were in the very beginning. But we're paying tribute to a wonderful man with a tremendously warm personality, a man who you can feel the nearness of him. And at the same time, we're paying tribute to two band leaders, Geraldo, although I never liked the strings that he had in that. He didn't have strings in the Savoy when he worked there. And Lew Stone. I was fortunate enough to know Lew Stone in the end, twilight years of his life. And I just thought he was a wonderful man. And so sympathetic, as I say, not just to every musician in the band, but to the vocalists. And it's rather strange, Billy saying that Al didn't bother much with women, because in the band everybody was Joe. Joe Clumsy was Lew Stone, because if he could fall off the stage, he would do, or knock a music stand over in a recording session. Now, he told me that himself, and so did his wife. And it's awful thinking of him falling off the stage. He was a lovely man. But Al Bowley was called Joe Sex, hardly because he liked running around the block, unless there was a woman in front of him.
Just let me look at you. Don't talk, don't break the spell. You're so sweet, so terribly sweet, so much a part of me. Dear funny face that I love so well. Your smile, such an enchanting smile. It's made my whole world light. Oh, darling, stand there all alone. Just let me look at you, sweetheart, tonight.
Well, you could hear Al breathing on that one, and Lou Davis, you hear him take a gulp of air in the last part of that record. But I remember giving a talk in London at the Ballet Rambeg, and I gave a recital on Lew Stone and his band, and I referred to Lew in closing as having the Rolls Royce of British dance music. And Lew was in the audience, and he came up to me at the end and he said, "Frank, I really appreciated that. It's nice to hear someone who's got a grasp of the music analysing a band and the records and illustrating the points." He says, although that was my band, he says, I was more concerned with getting everybody playing in tune, playing the dots right and everything. He said, it was lovely to hear you say it was the Rolls Royce of British dance bands. Well, it was, and he had some of the finest musicians in that band that you heard there, some of the finest, and it was a good band. He didn't overindulge himself in swing or any of the new crazes like that. He gave good dance music, a sweet sound, and syncopated, perfect tempo. And when he had Al Bowley with him, great. So tonight, for Al Bowley's birthday, at the party, Lew Stone and Geraldo, and all of you good friends and listeners, I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you weren't an Al Bowley fan before, I hope you are now.
This feeling, why this glow, why the thrill when you say hello? It's a strange and tender magic you do Mr. Wonderful, that's you. Why this trembling when you speak? Why the joy when you touch my cheek? I must tell you what my heart knows is true. Mr. Wonderful, that's you. And why this longing to know your charms, to spend forever here in your arms? Oh, there's much more I could say, but the words keep slipping away, and I'm left with only one point of view. Mr. Wonderful, that's you. It's a strange and tender magic you do, Mr. Wonderful, that's you. I must tell you what my heart knows is true, Mr. Wonderful, that's you. One more thing, then I'm through, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Wonderful, I love you. Mr. Wonderful, I love you.
Well, no prize for guessing the band leader there, the unmistakable sound of Billy Ternent, the lad from North Shields, near Tynemouth, on Tyneside, and the vocalist, the one and only Joe Marnie.
People ask me how I've lived till now. I tell them I don't know. I guess they understand how lonely life has been. But life began again the day you took my hand. And yes, I know how lonely life can be. The shadows follow me, and the night won't set me free. But I won't let the evening get me down. Now that you're around me, and you love me too. Your thoughts are just for me. You set my spirit free. I'm happy that you do. The book of life is brief, and once a page is read, all but love is dead. That is my belief. And yes, I know
John Gary was the singer there, and a beautiful version of And I Love You So. Well, the time now is fast approaching news time at 8 o'clock. I'll be back at 8:05, and as I mentioned before, the last survivor from Ambrose's great pre-war orchestra, Billy Amstell, will be with us. See you then.
BBC News for Yorkshire, Northern Lincolnshire and the North Midlands from BBC Local Radio.
It's 8 o'clock. This is Steve Saul. Good evening. The government's confirmed that people found guilty of possessing illegal firearms in England and Wales will get a 5-year jail sentence. The Home Secretary, David Blunkett, said draconian action was needed to tackle unacceptable increases in gun crime. But communities involved also had their part to play. Mr. Blunkett also expressed concern about the violent lyrics glamorising gun crime found in some rap music.
I'm not going to get into the issue of censoring, but I am concerned that we need to talk to the record producers, to the distributors, to those who actually are engaged in the music business about what is and isn't acceptable.
Police have confirmed that the body found on the moorland of that of missing Sheffield woman Carly Pinder. 26-year-old Carly disappeared from her home in Nether Edge over a year ago, as Tracy Cook reports.
The identification was made following a post-mortem today using dental records and Carly's personal possessions. Carly Pinder went missing in November 2001, and despite appeals by her parents and the police, no trace of her was found. Her body was found following the discovery of a human jawbone in Moorland near the Totley firing ranges on New Year's Day. The following day, a body without a jawbone was found in a ditch nearby. Police say they are not treating the death as suspicious, but will be making further investigations to try to establish how Carly died.
The Foreign Secretary, Jack Straw, has put the odds of a war with Iraq at around 60-40 against, although he said the situation was changing daily. Mr. Straw also tried to link the regime in Baghdad with that of al-Qaeda by saying they were part of the same threat faced by Britain. A North Yorkshire campaigner against America using RAF Fylingdales has criticised Geoff Hoon, Britain's Defence Secretary. Today she met with people concerned about the US plans to house a missile defence shield at the base. Mr. Hoon said no more buildings would be needed on the moors, and Fylingdales was unlikely to be a terrorist target. But Jackie Fernley from the Fylingdales Action Network poured scorn on his reassurances.
My predominant feeling was that Geoff Hoon had either convinced himself that about this being totally necessary, or he hadn't really understood what the full agenda of America is. And that I do find that worrying, because he did strike me as a bit naive if he thinks that it is purely about missile defence and about us joining in with America and also being protected, as he would see it.
Workers resumed today on a mobile phone mast in the West Yorkshire village of Bardsley, despite residents' campaigns against it. Leeds City Council served an enforcement notice on T-Mobile just before Christmas, ordering them to leave the site. But the notice doesn't come into effect until later this month, and T-Mobile are continuing to erect the mast in the meantime. T-Mobile says the work's needed to improve coverage in the area. And the actor Ricky Gervais is the star of TV sitcoms The Office, has been voted the most influential figure in British comedy. Gervais triumphed over fellow comedians Steve Coogan and Graham Norton in the list compiled by the Radio Times. As our entertainment reporter Lizzie Meek reports.
The Office attracted around 5 million viewers and has been the most popular BBC Two sitcom since The Royal Family. Ricky Gervais was also named Best Comedy Actor for The Office at the British Comedy Awards, and the series won Best Programme. The star of Alan Partridge, Steve Coogan, came second in the poll, and TV presenter Graham Norton was third. The list was compiled by industry experts for the Radio Times and also included Paul Whitehouse, Jonathan Ross and Ali G actor Sacha Baron Cohen.
Now, the time's just approaching 8 minutes. Time to cross to the travel centre for the latest news on tonight's roads. With the details, here's Claire Vandenbroek.
Thanks, Steve. Well, problems continue in the Panel Ash area of Harrogate. Panel Ash Road, that remains closed between Otley Road and Green Lane due to subsidence following an earlier burst water main. But not looking too bad elsewhere, I'm pleased to say. All major routes around the area reporting in problem-free. The M1 and the M62 coping well around the Lofthouse interchange, and the A1M Doncaster bypass also looking good in both directions. Moving on to the trains, though, services on the East Coast Main Line are still being affected due to engineering works near to Edinburgh. A shuttle bus service is replacing the trains between Berwick and Edinburgh, so do check before you travel with the National Rail Inquiries Bureau. In the meantime, if you do spot any further problems on the roads, keep us updated on the travel line. That's 0800 854 833.
Many thanks, Claire. Now let's have a look at tonight's weather. Clear spells and scattered snow flurries. Low temperatures tonight are very chilly, -3 degrees Celsius. That's 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Watch out for icy stretches and widespread moderate frost. That's BBC News for Yorkshire and Lincolnshire at 8:05.